Hey, this is Tyler. This is going to be the first part of my however many parts it takes review retrospective love letter on Pathfinder First Edition. Kind of letting my biases out of the way. Pathfinder First Edition is my favorite d20 system, probably my favorite system ever. I've been playing it for about 10 years, running it for 8 or 9 of those. Probably only role playing it for the last 3 or 4. Trying to roleplay it for longer than that, but it's really difficult to find. If you're the only role player in the group and you're the DM and all you can find are people who want to play a board game once a week, yeah, it gets pretty difficult. And that's what most people want to do is they want to play a board game once a week. But kind of beating a dead horse there, that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about in this first part is how Pathfinder First Edition solved the D20. What do I mean by that? Well, I wouldn't be the first person to point out that the D20 has an issue. You are equally likely to roll a 1, or a 12, or a 20, or a 17. All of the numbers. There's no bell curve. There's no softening. And in reality, if I go to do something, I'm probably most likely to do somewhere in the middle. Now, some D20 systems solve this problem. 5e attempts to solve this problem with advantage, but there are problems with advantage, with the way that it doesn't stack, the way that you can't, if you get high ground on someone and are, using a ranged weapon and they don't have, you're stacking advantages, they just, well, that too bad. That, they don't like dealing with numbers because I think, to be frank, I think the average 5th edition player is scared by basic math. You'll hear the derision against Pathfinder of, oh, Mathfinder, but you should be doing all of the math beforehand. You should already have pretty much all of it ready on your character sheet or whatever, and be adding maybe between 2 and 4 throughout a session. If you can't add 2 or 4 to something like that, yeah, I would suggest don't play a Dungeons and Dragons style game. Just play a D6 system, play a dice pool system, play something like that. Rather than trying to reinvent the wheel. So, how does Pathfinder deal with this swinginess? I know Shauner is an outspoken opponent of the D20 because of its swinginess, and I actually agree with him on that point, but I think Pathfinder solves it in a big way. Let's look at early level Pathfinder characters. I think the least interesting part of Pathfinder. Yeah, you're poorly trained, you're not very experienced. There is a greater likelihood that you're going to be relying on luck to hit your enemy, to succeed at a skill check, to successfully cast your spell on under duress or something like that. Just because you haven't done it a lot, right? If you've only done something, 50, 60 times in your life, well, you know how to do it, but in a stressful situation, there's going to be a bit of flailing, a bit of, not, look at people who can do beautiful karate forms in, maybe the kata competition, but then you put them in the fight and they're immediately like, ah, and then maybe 30 seconds into the fight, they go, oh, yeah. But usually, as you start progressing, once you get to having been in, let's say, 100 fights or sparred 100 times, and then 200, 300, you're leveling up, it's less based on luck. You know how to predict things, oh yeah, I've seen a lock like this before, easy enough. How does that compare to Pathfinder? Pathfinder's not afraid to get really big numbers. Phenomenal. Great. You're a level 15 character. The thing that you're good at, you're probably going to have a plus 20, plus 25, plus 30 to hit. Well, okay, now the die, maybe you need to roll a 1 to miss. And if you're not using the house rule, maybe the game has already told you it's an automatic success. The game, through its math and through its progression, sort of gives you hints as to how you should GM. Let's look at, I think, one of the most brilliant things about Pathfinder, the take 10 and take 20. These are respectively, take 10's really the thing that sees used the most, but I want to talk about take 20 second because it informs the GM when they shouldn't be making a player roll. Take 10 is effectively if there's no consequence for... If there's no major consequence for failure and you're not under a huge time constraint, you can simply take 10. You can say it's an average situation. That lets you avoid the swinginess of the die rolls. If you know all you need is 10 plus your skill rank, then, all right, let's go. Go ahead and do it. You can tell the GM. This way, also, the GM doesn't have to memorize all of your character sheets or, have a bunch of tabs open of, oh, here's the tab for this monster stat block, here's the tab open for my notes, here's the tab open for the module we're running, and in person you're juggling 15 sheets of paper. No, I know the players know their character sheets, and I can tell them, let's see, you see a lock. It's not insanely difficult. You think you can get it done in maybe a minute with your skill. Go ahead and make me a roll. And I go, oh, well, if it's a lock I've seen before, if it's something that's pretty much routine, I don't see the guys chasing us. I lost their footsteps there a while back. I think I can spend a minute on this. Crack on with it. And then they get to give themselves an automatic success effectively. And you don't have to tell them the DC for this. They can say, well, if I take 10 on this, I get a 25. It's like, oh, yep, that's the DC for the lock. But then there's that little bit of game of, what if it was just a little harder? What if you say, this is a pretty difficult lock. You think you can get through it. It's not going to take a miracle, but it might take you a little longer. It might, you might break a pick or two. And they go, I'm going to take 10 on that. Well, they've given themselves an automatic failure in this regard. Maybe they needed a 30 and a 10 only gives them a 25. Something like that. That really helps you cut down on the feeling of swinginess with the die rolls. Of course, in combat, it's still going to happen because you're under duress. Maybe you could allow your player to take a 10 if they spend like 2 rounds. If they're saying, like, I'm going to really hunt for this weak spot. I'm just going to sit here and wait and try to wind and get myself into a perfect position where I can make a really clean strike at the gaps in his armor or something like that. Or stab this beast right as it opens its mouth. Something like that. You could allow a 10 in that situation, but of course they're probably going to have to sit there for a round and just eat some attacks. Taking 20, on the other hand, is a real indicator of, hey, GM, you're not supposed to... Don't make me roll this. Without the player having to tell you, hey, why are you making me roll here? And pulling you out of the immersion, like, severely, having that conversation from player to GM. The player just has to tell you, oh, I take 20 on that. And then, unspoken, the GM goes, you're right. This is a silly situation. I shouldn't have had you roll on this. And, you're really skilled on this. Maybe you had like a really difficult skill check. It's like a DC 50 thing. But you didn't realize this player is really, really good at picking locks. So let's keep with that analogy. He's a 30 in disable device. You can take a 20 if there is no time limit. if there is no possibility, there's literally no risk for failure. And so effectively, yeah, there was no reason for you to have that. Also, taking a 20 is a way for your players to gain information without asking questions. You know, I move over, you know, you've got a lockbox, you've taken it with you, you've defeated some monster and gotten their treasure, but something's in a lockbox. And you fiddle around with it then and there, and you're like, I can't crack it open. And so the players head back to town, and, you know, your rogue's fiddling with it in his tavern room. It's kind of like, man, I can't figure this out. I'm going to take a 20 on it. If it works, phenomenal. You did it. If it doesn't work, well, now you have, without asking questions, determined, it is impossible for me to accomplish this task at my current level of skill. And you as the DM can say, try as you might, you spend all night, the entire time in your tavern room, working furiously on this lockbox. You set pins, you set false pins, you unset those false pins, you finally hear it ticking in a few places, and then boof, a trap pin just snaps down on your tool and snaps it in half. And you realize that there's no way you're going to get this done unless you buy better tools, unless you get some better skill, maybe perhaps some magic. You know, there are a bunch of things you can do with that. And now you don't have the potentially annoying thing of your players going, okay, I'm going to try it again today. Okay, I'm going to try it again today. And they're just rolling the d20 over and over again to hope that they get lucky, only to find on the 6th time that they've asked you, they get a natural 20 and they still can't get it open. Of course, unless you're house rolling that a natural 20 is an automatic success. I personally don't do that. A natural 20 is only an automatic success if that would actually hit the target number, and a natural 1 is only a failure if it wouldn't hit the target number. That's a house rule, though, a little aside. So yeah, with those two rules and the fact that the numbers are so huge in Pathfinder 1st Edition, you really start as a character that feels a lot of the effects of luck, of having a puncher's chance, as they say in boxing, of just like the unskilled guy. He can sometimes randomly land that big haymaker if he just, you know, gets lucky on the timing, if it slips right through the opponent, if it accidentally ends up doing a proper feint. Because sometimes your instincts just kick in and are like, even though you haven't trained this is a sort of in-the-moment logical thing to do, and it just works. But then as your character advances, your numbers get to the point where you're really only relying on luck on the things that you aren't trained for, on the things that you aren't specialized at. And I think that might be the topic for the next video in this series, that Pathfinder really encourages specialization, because if you specialize at something, you aren't at the mercy of the d20. If you don't specialize at something, well, you know, there's going to be a little bit of luck in each of the things that you try to do effectively. And yeah, the Pathfinder just allows you in a way that not many other d20 systems I know of encourage role-playing a character that's really, really good at something by not punishing you with the randomness of the d20, while still having the d20 to simulate the low skill level characters. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. Do you... have you played Pathfinder 1st Edition? What are your thoughts on it? I know some people have some... Pathfinder 1st Edition seems to be a very polarizing system. People seem to either really love it or hate it, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have played it, if you haven't, do you use these rules? Do you play Pathfinder at a particular level range? I know some people only play low-level campaigns of a particular game, or only high-level campaigns of a particular game. Yeah. Any other thoughts are appreciated. Let me know if you would like, well, I guess let me know if you'd like more videos like this one. I'm going to make them anyways. But regardless of whether you do or you don't. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. As I again hunt for the stop recording button. Now, goodbye.